making excuses when they should be soul searching?
Everyone is making excuses. And so the James Carville clip you just showed was going to be an example I showed. The problem with these broad causal explanations, this blame game that's getting thrown around, is no one knows for sure, obviously, exactly what propels individual voters to vote the way they do. And so the moderate wing of the Democratic Party, Carville in particular, is saying it's wokeness, but you have AOC on the other hand saying, no, actually Democrats ran too moderate of campaign. And that's the problem. And so, we just don't have the kind of information we need. All we have, which is a good litmus test, is how these issues poll. Defund the police is very unpopular. Critical race theory, most people haven't ever heard of it, but of those who have, they have a negative connotation of that. So we can make some guesses that are educated, but I just want viewers to know it's not the most exciting television analysis, right, but the most
the nuance is always a little
know.
Yeah, nuance is not nearly as exciting. We found that out in our first segment. But if you look up the NBC exit poll and you talk about issues that matter, Glenn Youngkin won parents by 18 points. This is Virginia exit poll, white women. Number of those are parents. They flipped from Biden +1 to Youngkin, Republican +14, 15-point swing. You have to think that there are issues that swung them, right?
Sure. Well, persuasion is one thing. That's very important. Turnout is another. And so a lot of these activation arguments about people really care about this one thing, and so that's what changed election results. How big is the voting bloc, and at what rate do they turn out? All of those things are important. And so, yes, education got impressively so bumped up the priority list for voters in Virginia. But if you really look at what Youngkin was saying, it was a lot of different aspects of education. It was school funding, it was COVID policies surrounding schools. And so a lot of these were traditional Republican talking points and not necessarily just the culture war stuff that's a dominant part of the conversation this week.
Yeah, we're going to get into sort of the effect of that on school boards and how now Republicans are trying to become the party of parents a little later in the show. I want to get back, though, to sort of what you would study in this. Was there the Democrats' talking point specifically that, if only we had passed President Biden's domestic agenda, then everything would have been fine, not just in Virginia, but in New Jersey, where they lost 16 points. In races out in Seattle, races in Long Island as well. Can you really blame a bill that very few people know much about for a loss at all?
That's an excellent point, and I'm really glad you brought it up, because what we do have research on, and quite a bit of it, is that this sort of policy approval hypothesis where you pass policies, you're successful at passing your agenda in Congress, and people reward you at the ballot box. There's really not a lot of evidence of that. And you're right, most people don't pay attention to these debates inside Washington that a lot of political junkies like you and I do. And so it's in your face everyday issues, taxes. We had a tax revolt here in New Jersey, schools, prices, things that affect your everyday life and are in your face. And in addition to that, there's a lot of theories that show a better motivator than approval of something is disapproval of something. And so a reaction is more likely what's happening than punishing someone for not passing a bill.
That's interesting. You say approve, disapprove. President Biden's poll numbers now, he's the most unpopular president at this time of his administration, with the exception of Donald Trump. So the people were disapproving of President Biden in Virginia, at least the ones we interviewed on a large part, and that explains a lot. This was the vice president before the election talking about Virginia. Take a listen.
What happens in Virginia will in large part determine what happens in 2022, 2024, and on.
Okay, so that was the vice president before the election. And then take a listen to the vice president yesterday.
We had great wins, as well as obviously what we talked about in Virginia, and I celebrate those. We have Eric Adams in New York. In Ohio, we had with Miss Brown, Chantel Brown.
Maybe she was thinking about different election results than the rest of us were watching. But either way, fact check this for us. Was she right the first time, or is she right the second time?
Well, there's not a lot of evidence for bellwethers. They receive way too much attention with not a lot of evidence to back it up. We already knew the Democrats were going to have a very difficult time in the midterms without knowing anything about Virginia or New Jersey. That's what happens. The president's party loses a lot of seats. The question is, how many are they going to lose? Are they going to lose the Senate in addition to the House? But there's not a lot of debate about whether that's going to be bad anyway. We knew that before. And it is true that Democrats didn't perform as badly as other governors in their positions in previous years, but the margins also matter. And in New Jersey, that's more interesting in a lot of ways than Virginia. We have 1 million more registered Democrats in New Jersey than Republicans. And the bread and butter issues, at least it's fine to say that people are paying a lot of attention to them, and it could be one reason Republicans are more mobilized than Democrats right now.
Well, Republicans certainly are more energetic. You can feel that in Washington, D.C. Lauren, great conversation as always. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. As a reporter, thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.